JC, Coach Pryor was in here talking about Gunner moving into defensive tackle. I'm curious what went into that decision to try him out there, and what have you seen of him so far this spring?
Well, not just specifically Gunner, but anytime you talk about moving a guy, it's always conversations about assets and liabilities. And most of the moves that you make as a coach is to try to get more athletic ability or speed to a certain position. So that's what we did. It was nothing that Gunner was doing wrong at defensive end. We're very thin at defensive end, and we thought it was a chance for him to maximize his abilities and have probably a better chance to play early this year.
It sounds like you have two linebackers that have now moved into your group at end with Rudolph and one of the McDonald. Which one is
Jordan.
Jordan. What do you see from them as a possibility on the edge? Just size-wise, they're kind of small out there, but obviously pretty quick, I would assume.
I wouldn't necessarily say they're small. I mean, Lakeem's 240 pounds. I don't know if you saw our depth chart, but how many ends besides Griff and Taiwan do we have is heavier than 240 pounds? So he kind of fits our measurables really well. Jordan and him both, bring a certain skill set once again with athletic ability. You try to move guys closer to the ball, and that's always when you think about football. Way back from when I played, back in the dark ages, you try to move guys closer to the ball, and that's what you usually do. You try to move them from the back end to the front to maximize their athletic ability, and that's what we see in both those guys.
How much does this alleviate the pressure? Brent said that you and him had a discussion about kind of numbers, and we're kind of worried about getting through spring with the scholarship guys healthy. Does this help kind of alleviate some of that pressure with, adding a couple more bodies in your room?
No, not really, because the depth issue right now going through spring is at D tackle. So allowing us to move Gunner would help that. Now we have 7 guys working at D tackle instead of 6, which will help. Because you have some guys, like Norrell, who he needs to get work, but he doesn't need as much work as, say, Will Panay. So that allows Will Panay to get more reps against the first string instead of the second string, which would promote his development. So those are the type of things that adding people to a certain position group helps you.
And do you, with the numbers at D tackle, do you then pull back a little maybe at sometimes just to kind of make sure everybody's healthy? I mean, how are you kind of managing that to make sure?
D-line is never any pullback. It's full steam ahead all the time. And because the thing about defensive line is we've taken the mantra this year of 10,000 hours, and it takes 10,000 hours to perfect a craft. And everything we're doing every day, there's a way to start chipping away at those 10,000 hours to become a better football player. So it is not the most intense position mentally, but it is the most intense physically and technique-wise with all the things that we're going to ask our guys to do. So there's never going to be any kind of pullback. We're going to need everybody. And to me, it's more about getting the matchups and getting guys that we think are going to have to help us in a game, practicing against guys who actually played in the game instead of some younger guys who still need to develop.
You have a mix of older guys and younger guys in that room right now. What if some of the older guys, like you mentioned, Norrell and Taiwan, what have stood out about them, so far this spring?
Well, those two guys in general, I think their leadership has really increased, and the thing that they're doing a better job of is understanding what their personal issues are, and they're addressing their own individual liabilities and issues they have as far as, you can't be a leader if you're not doing everything right. And right now, those two guys are doing all the little things off the field right. They're living right off the field. They're doing things right in the classroom. They're doing things right in the meeting rooms. So everything that a leader has to be able to do, because I can't call out a guy on his behavior if I'm not acting right. And those two guys have really grown up and have taken the challenge of becoming the leaders in the room. They're doing a great job of that right now.
And we're 6 days through spring practice. What kind of stuff? I know Pry talked about installation, but what kind of stuff are you teaching those guys right now? Is it a lot of just fundamentals, or what's kind of going into that?
Well, every day it's going to be a mixture of fundamentals and then what is the overall scheme and defense that we're installing that day. being a D-line coach or being a D lineman, a lot of what we do either at the beginning of the season in August or beginning of spring is very front-loaded. So we have a lot of stuff thrown at us early because of the different techniques and things we need to execute within each call. So as the spring goes on, or as August camp goes on, our installation for D-line specifically will decrease, and then you start really paying attention. Okay, you know where to go, but now let's dive in on how to get there, and that's what we continue to work on.
For younger guys, it sounds like that's a lot to take in, like maybe for like an early enrollee.
It 100% is. Rule of thumb is the closer you get to the ball, harder it is to play. Like D-tackle, center, quarterback, guys who are right there around the ball. It's harder to play, not just from a mental standpoint, just from a physicality standpoint. And then you have the little small details of the technique that goes into it. So you have to have a certain baseline of strength, toughness, and then you have to have a baseline of technique to be able to get that job done.
Cole Nelson got a taste last year, and it sounded like he was a guy you guys were very excited about. How's he taken to this spring? And I know he's been up there getting some first-team reps, at least what we saw last week.
Yeah, well, right now, we don't have a first team. We have a group that goes out there first. There's no one on the depth chart who's going to – I'm not going to tell you who's going to start against ODU because I don't know. It's a long time before we open up. And Cole he's benefited greatly from the playing time he got last year. With Cole, he's a very intelligent guy. He's a hard-working guy. He's the same person every day. And with Cole, you don't have to start over. Cole can stack things on top of another, and you never. So while some players that are young, you consistently have to go back to day one, because they think they have day one, and then you're on day 3, and they're still screwing up the stuff that they're supposed to have mastered on day 1. You've never had that problem out of Cole. So Cole has benefited greatly from the playing time he had last year.
How about C.J. McCrae? I know he made the move last year, coming into your room on the defensive line, and you have the history with him from Marshall. I'm just curious how much he's taken to that position after a year of working a new spot.
Right now, C.J. is leaps and bounds of where he was, at any point last year. Even at the end of the year last year, the last couple of games that he was playing in, just from a comfort standpoint of being a defensive end, the little things as far as getting your eyes, continuously talking to him about where his eyes are. We say in football, if you see a lot, you see nothing. If you see a little, you see a lot. So he's right now in the process of just trying to train his eyes, but knowing what to do, how to get there, he's far beyond what he was at any point last year. So we're really excited about his development.
Hey, Coach, when we talk about guys changing positions, Jordan McDonald's a guy who's seen experience at basically all 3 levels of the defense. How beneficial is it when guys do change positions for them to bring, I guess, some of that experience from other positions and use it, I guess, now on the D-line?
I don't know if it's experience from other positions. Some of it could be the knowledge and what their roles were and what their places were on the defense as far as when they come in the D-line room, he knows where, I used to play Sam, so I know where the Sam blitz is coming from, so I know which way I should be going and things like that. But if you look at it, what did he play last year on scout team the whole time? He played defensive end. So even those reps at scout team against our offense last year helped him in the transition and hit the ground running. And I thought for the first day one that he did some things that you didn't have to coach. I mean, he's doing some things out there naturally that you're trying to get some guys to do over a series of practices, and he came out and looked pretty natural doing a lot of things in day one.
With position changes like that, does each guy have a different timeline? I mean, is there any way to kind of predict how comfortable they'll be or how much you could throw at them? I mean, is it kind of by feel, like, how when you've got Lakeem, you've got Gunner moving inside, like how do you kind of judge what you can do with each guy or your expectations for each guy?
Well, to me, it's how fast they dive into it and how fast or how willing are they to adjust to the position change, get to or have to, right? The guys who say I get to do this, well, they're going to learn to do it a lot faster than a guy who's fighting it and says I have to do this. So I think all of those guys who, and I'm speaking specifically for the defense, all the guys who made the position changes yesterday all hit the ground running. All of them had a very positive attitude, so I don't think the transition is going to take long for any of them.
What has it been like for you coaching the entire defensive line this year? And I know in the past, kind of working with somebody else doing that.
Yeah.
I know you have help as well with assistants helping you out, but doing it all yourself this year, or being in charge of the whole room again, has that been a change of pace for you?
Not really. I've done it in other spots, and there's assets and liabilities to it. Obviously, there's more guys for me to keep track of. Watching the film at times, we have to be, and me and Corey both have to be a little more organized in how we watch the film to be able to get our points across and get to fine-tune techniques taught to the guys, as opposed to, if I'm only coaching two guys, it's not going to take as long and it's probably a little easier. But I've done it like this before. I would rather have the whole room myself, to be honest with you, so I don't have to worry about stepping on anybody's toes or having conversations about what I think is best. I can just coach the way I want to coach it.
Is Mario Kendricks going to be 100% this spring? I mean, what's his kind of status? We saw him in a blue jersey. Is he still limited, or is he back?
He'll be limited throughout the spring. I don't think he's going to be full go to the summertime.
What's your kind of focus with him then? I mean, we're obviously probably working with the trainer some, but obviously slowed. Missed him out a month last year at the end of the season. How's he kind of been with that injury and developing?
Oh, he's going to be fine. He's out there doing everything he can do, and that's what a blue jersey means, is that they can do certain things in practice. So he's doing a lot of the footwork. He's doing the walkthroughs. He's doing all the learning, all the installs. He's learning what to do. He's hearing the calls. He's going through all of that. He's just not doing the physicality part.